Okay, folks, so we are talking about blood today. The first thing you need to do is to put your name on the cover of your booklet now that you've stapled everything together and you've got it all ready to go, because this is going to be your primary notes for blood. So it's going to be really important. So we're going to start with the back of the front cover here, and we are looking at a DNA molecule here. And so one of the things that's super important to remember about DNA is that it is basically just a chemical. In this case, it's a chemical that has parts to it. So we are going to start by talking about the backbone, which is here. It's made up of phosphorus and sugar. So each of these P's, this is a phosphorus. So I want you to color them all the same. No, the color you pick does not really matter. But the phosphorus gives a nice stable side to your DNA and allows it to stay nice and stable while it's doing things or duplicating or anything along those lines. So let me see here. There we go. So then we have sugars. The sugars are these guys here. And I'm just kind of outlining them because it's a little bit hard to draw on an iPad. But the point is that the sugars and the phosphorus don't do anything for your DNA other than add that stability to keep it together and hold all of the pieces in alignment with each other. And so once you've got all of these colored in, then we're going to talk about the nucleotide bases, of which there are 4. So adenine is our first one. So let's see here if I can. There we go. Blue. So I'm going to make adenine blue here because it's easy. So I'm going to come in and highlight my adenines and make them all blue. So there are 4 bases and they match up, which is how we get so much diversity in our DNA. So we've got our adenine, and we're now going to match those with thymine, which I'm going to make green because I can. It does not have to be green. It can be whatever color you've got. So your adenine and your thymine are matching up, and then you've got your guanine and your cytosine. This is probably mostly review for most of you. So go over here, my guanine. I'm going to make it orange. And there's my guanine, and it matches up with my cytosine, which at this point, I think we can probably do like a purple. Yeah, we haven't done that yet. So there's my cytosine. And these lines here in between, these lines right here, these are the bonds that are holding the molecules together. That's why they're drawn in there that way. So all this DNA, this chemical, lives inside your cell. And there are 2 things about the cell that we need to remember. First off, there's a structure on the very innermost part called the nucleolus. And that holds your DNA until it's ready to duplicate. And then it comes out into this larger structure here, also usually near the center of the cell. This is called the nucleus. And the last thing that we need to take note of here are the ribosomes. And the reason the ribosomes are important is because they make proteins. So I'm just going to color in a couple of them here so that you can kind of see where they are. And then I'm going to label them. These are ribosomes. So you've got your nucleus, your nucleolus, and your ribosomes. Those are the big things that interact with DNA because the DNA is coding for those proteins, just like it says right here. This is your first tab. And so you can see that the DNA is a double helix of chemicals right here that determine what proteins get made in your cells. And those proteins are basically what separate your cells from somebody else's cells, is that they all make different proteins because of what they are essentially told to do by that DNA. So when you're talking about blood, you're talking about mostly plasma. So this pie chart here is showing you that the plasma makes up about 55% of your blood volume. And that's a lot. So it's one of those things that it really is a whole lot of plasma going on there. Then you've got over here, this medium little slice of pie right there. Those are your white blood cells. Now, white blood cells protect your body against disease. They fight off illness, that sort of thing. Your red blood cells, which is what most of us think of when we think of blood, is only about, only about 40 to 45% of our blood cells are red, or of our blood volume is red blood cells. So those carry oxygen to and from different parts of the body. Lastly, we have our platelets here. The platelets are actually super important. They're this less than 1%, this tiny little pie wedge right there. And the reason they're so important is because they help your body to clot, so that if you get cut, you don't bleed to death from a paper cut, because the platelets are these broken little red blood cell parts that are weirdly shaped that basically clog up that exit, which is what clotting is, to prevent you from bleeding to death. So there's your cover, the back of your cover, and your very first tab. So this is the first part of your blood basics notes.